Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers.
Today we really want to give you an overview of what we've seen and done in the park and the videos you're going to be watching for the next few months.
And the park she's talking about is Yellowstone National Park. We have been here, we got to Cody on September 3rd.
I think so.
And we will be leaving here on September 20th, which is the northern part. So we have done a lot over the last 2.5 weeks or so. And so everything we've been doing, it's next, honestly, few months.
Yes.
What you're going to be seeing. And our goal for the park was?
Not to spend our whole time driving back and forth across the park. It's a huge park, folks.
That's why we're calling this Divide and Conquer. And so looking at elevation is really kind of where we set the tone. We started in the east, then the east, we camped just outside of the eastern entrance at 3 Mile Campground, which is
3 miles.
And it's a National Forest campground. A number of first-come sites there. We got there actually on Labor Day.
Yes.
Had no issues finding
Yes.
a site. And that brings up one other thing before we go on is I want to show you this, is on the back of the newspaper they give you, showing you when the roads close. And these are going to
Yes.
stay open through September.
Yes.
They start closing some in October. So we had no issues with that. And my other question about coming in the shoulder season was when things were closing. There have been a couple of things that were closed, not many. The only one that I think that was manned that is closed was the Ranger, the Museum of the National Park Rangers, but that is all volunteer, and they closed it September 1st.
And there are a couple of campgrounds and the Roosevelt Lodge.
Roosevelt Tower section and that lodge area, that whole village thing up there. Well, the gas station was still open, but most everything is still open through September.
And if you're not familiar at all with the park, it is Theodore Roosevelt, not FDR.
Okay, and so our east section started outside the park, and folks, when we're talking about drives and beautiful views on drives, a lot of that is a 27 miles from the entrance until you get over to the loop. And there's some amazing scenery in there. That's where we saw bighorn sheep, was in that section. But we called from Bay Bridge up to the Tower Falls, what we were exploring in the east, and our favorite part of that was
Canyon Village.
And that's where the, if you look at the Canyon Village, zoom in there, you see that the artist overlook is there.
So
and
cool.
This is called the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone.
Yes.
And it's really a neat area. Folks, for one of the reasons we took so long is so we'd have several mornings where we could go in early and explore. Some of them it was cloudy and a little bit drizzly, but this is when we were here, so we just kept going.
Yes.
And that was a super neat place.
And it was rainy and drizzly when we went to the mud volcanoes.
That's another favorite in that
And
area.
it's a favorite.
But I gotta tell you, I think all that humidity helped keep that sulfur smell just right there close to the ground, because that's one that cleared your sinuses. But it was, that was my other favorite, if we have more than one favorite there. Then we went to the south entrance, and there we camped along Grassy Lake Road. And folks, I gotta tell you, that's the most incredible view of free dispersed camping we've ever had.
Tetons and
the curve of the Snake River. So we're camping between the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, and that was an awesome place. And once again, that's 22 miles south of the loop. And the views there of the rivers, etc., amazing. And from that campsite there at just behind Flag Ranch, we came into the park and went West Thumb. Geyser Basin was really kind of a neat place there. Came back around to the Bay Bridge area and then went all the way just past Old Faithful to Black Sand Basin for the southern section. And I think once again, I'm going to say that West Thumb Geyser Basin.
Yes.
And
the Black Sand.
Because they're not as well known. We were there early. The parking lots were basically empty, and we could walk out and just enjoy the view of those.
And take as much time as we wanted.
And we also, while we were there in that camping area, came down to the Grand Tetons and
even to Jackson Hole.
And Jackson Hole, you see, I've seen both names there. We did go to Mormon Row and got some pictures there. We did see a moose, actually 2 different places in the Tetons, and the scenic drive up to Signal Mountain. I don't know that I would do that again, but you do get a view there that you don't otherwise. One of my favorite views was going across the dam there in the Tetons. But if you're here, you don't want to miss going to the Tetons because it's very different than the park. And once we left the south, we went
to the west.
And in the west, I'm going to be honest, the dispersed camping options that we had, I believe I made 5 U-turns while we're hitched on these really
rutted, horrible.
Well, they're rough National Forest Service roads. And finally, Targee or Targhee, it's spelled both ways.
I think Targee, but I'm not sure.
One is on the road as you're turning in, and the other is on the sign once you get to that trailhead. But I thought I had seen that we could stop there. Mylena called the National Forest Service Ranger's office and asked them about that. And that is just out of West Yellowstone, and West Yellowstone is a town. And
they wanted to know if we were hard-sided, exactly where we were.
And then they suggest that we could stay there, and we did. We had people join us a couple of nights, but we were there a number of nights. And folks, from the west, this is the highest concentration of geothermal activity is in the west. And it is just a 14-mile drive from the entrance to Madison, which is where the circle is. I will tell you that on that road, there is a lakeside drive. It's just, you drive down by the lake instead of up on it. We did find out that the greater Yellowstone area is a mega for fly fishing. Some of the best fly fishing in the country is here. And there are lots of people out there doing it.
I like that they provide lots of pull-offs.
But from there, we went down to Biscuit Basin. At Norris, we went across to Virginia Cascades. And folks, that was anticlimactic because on that little scenic drive, there were only 2 pullouts. And they were full. And then there are big concrete barriers I mean, to keep people safe. I'm not complaining about that. But you could not really see the Cascades that well. And then went up to Roaring Mountain.
That was a cool place to go.
But I think of our favorite things here, the Firehole Canyon Drive.
That was wonderful.
It was awesome. I mean, it was amazing, and the views you can get from your car are outstanding.
And they had pull-offs so that if people were wanting to drive it very quickly, we could let them.
And the other is not listed on the map. They just had a little sign, and that was the Terrace Springs.
Yes.
And once again, nobody's there because it's not on the map. It's not well known. and yet these hot springs just boiling, causing steam on both sides of the road.
Was that where we stopped and there were only 3 cars?
I believe so, yeah. And do want to mention also about that west section from Madison down to about Midway Geyser. There's, I'm going to say 2 herds of bison that live right along in that area. And you may be stopped for 30 minutes or an hour. As we were coming through the first time, bison are in the road. They're just walking in the road in the other lane. And folks from, Fountain Paint Pots all the way back to Madison, and that's about 5 miles, I think, that traffic was stopped.
And those people had no idea why.
And as a matter of fact, we went and emptied our tanks at Madison Campground. When we came out, the traffic was stopped past the campground going out the western entrance. So, as they're coming in from the western entrance, it was stopped at the stop sign trying to turn right, but they can't because bison were in the road 5 or 6 miles down the road.
And we cannot leave west without talking about the Grand Prismatic Spring. It wasn't at its best when we saw it. It was foggy.
Yeah, and that was the deal. Here in September and west, the elevation is higher, so it's colder. The mornings we got out, sometimes there was some fog. And so, while that's one of the most well-known, for us it wasn't as impressive as some of the others. And one other thing I'm going to say about the West, and that was, Norris is a very popular place. If you have mobility issues, I would probably skip it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there. It's impressive, but I would spend time doing some of these other things.
I didn't get to go very far. I just couldn't.
Okay, and then the place that we camped outside of West Yellowstone, I believe was exactly 10 miles out of West Yellowstone. We are now north of Yellowstone, north of Gardner, and we are at 16 miles, just about north of the northern entrance. And
we're at Cabrera
National Recreation Area. We love it. This is a great spot for us. From the northern, we came down to the Sheep Eater Cliff, and we actually went over to Tower Roosevelt. And you got to tell you that one of the most impressive things in the north are the terrace.
Yes.
There's the upper terrace that you drive around, which is awesome, and the lower terrace, which lots and lots and lots and lots of steps, but it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
It's unlike anything else. But I'm going to say another favorite for the north is the Blacktail Plateau Drive. It's a gravel road. It's one way, and it's 6 miles.
Yes,
one way, and we spent about an hour doing that. It is a gravel road. Once again, they had a lot of pull-offs, but it was just a beautiful drive. The drive into the park from the north is not far at all. They say it's 5 miles. I'm not sure if that's changed with the new road, but it is, we've seen a lot of elk and pronghorn sheep on that drive.
And in Mammoth, the town of Mammoth, they're just elk walking the streets.
Well, and at Gardner.
Yes.
Both have elk. And so, anyway, this just is kind of an overview for each of these other things that we went and saw and did. We go into a whole lot of detail in each of those separate videos. We show you the campgrounds in detail as you watch those videos. And one other video that we want to mention. Okay, one of the things that we were talking about as we kind of got into our excursion into Yellowstone, we're of the age that we have friends that have started slowing down some. We've slowed down some. But, you know, there are some people that just aren't going to feel like, well, I'm not going to go if I can't do everything I did when I was a kid. And we were talking about the fact that you never have to get out of your car for this trip to be worthwhile. And we were talking about the places that are accessible here in Yellowstone. And Mylena went online and saw that there's actually an accessibility guide that Yellowstone provides. So we borrowed one.
Yes.
And we actually have a separate video all about accessibility, because we want you to know, come here. If you
regardless.
We didn't get out in the back country, but it was worth it. So that is also a video we're including.
We hope you join us as we make our trek through Yellowstone with all 4 sections that we covered.
Plus the Tetons, the camping, and the accessibility. If you know anyone who is tempted to
stay home,
hopefully this will be an encouragement for them. But I gotta tell you, as we're wrapping up this extended stay, I'm thankful that we have the time to have spent this much time there. And maybe you don't have that long, but these series of videos can help you narrow down the places that you want to go and visit when you come to the park. Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.